Welcome to Dairy Delivery by the Dairy Star. On today's episode, we'll speak to one of the newest selections of the Livestock Hall of Fame, Spencer Hackett. Hackett talks with us about his passion for genetics. Next, we'll speak with Ron Brooks. He's a recipient of this year's Wisconsin Master Agriculturalist Award, and he talked with us about stewardship and conservation. Next, we head to Rochester, Minnesota, where we talk to the owner of one of the last salt-glazed tile barns left in the country. We wrap up today's episode in Lisle, Minnesota with Lori Reed. Lori and her husband Roger earned the Top Genetic Protein Award for their herd of 125 brown Swiss cows. You are listening to Dairy Delivery, all dairy, all the time.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Dairy Star. Whether you milk 50 cows or 5,000, your story matters. And at Dairy Star, we tell it. As the nation's largest dairy publication, Dairy Star is delivered bi-weekly to more than 15,000 addresses across the Midwest, representing dairy farmers of all shapes and sizes. From industry news and market updates to inspiring farm profiles, we've got the stories that keep the heart of dairy beating strong. And here's the best part. You can read every issue online completely free at dairystar.com. Prefer to listen? We got you covered. The Dairy Delivery Podcast brings you the latest headlines and features right to your ears on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So whether you're in the barn, in the tractor, or just on the go, stay connected to the dairy community you love. Like and subscribe to the Dairy Delivery Podcast today, and never miss a story that matters to you.
I'm Michelle Stangler.
And I'm Dan Walker, and we're your reporters with the Dairy Star, bringing you the latest in the dairy industry, including hearing from farmers from across the Midwest and beyond. Well, Michelle, this past week has been a farm tech days over in Bear Creek at Clinton Farms. I got a chance to go up there for a little bit and kind of check out with what was going on and see some people that I had written some stories on and get to meet with some of our other readers. It was a really good time. Where are you at? What are you up to?
Well, it's in the mix of county fair and state fair season. I've been at the Wisconsin State Fair for a few days, but even farm technology days. I remember going with my dad and my mom as well, and it's always cool just to see how it's evolved year after year. Anything cool that you saw on your list?
Yeah, I'd say I got a chance to head out to the chopping demonstration. There's a couple different pieces of equipment, say a bigger merger, a couple choppers, and kind of new different semis and stuff running a little bit, and so doing some demonstrations. I know they had a tiling demonstration. They had another one where they were using a drone to spray some of the crops, which was pretty cool.
All the technologies. It's just super interesting. It's state fair season. Just last week, the Iowa Dairy Princess was chosen. Soon, the Princess K, the Milky Way, will be chosen just before the Minnesota State Fair. Dan, I know that we've been talking a lot about state fairs and county fairs. Have you been to the Minnesota State Fair, or is it a bucket list item to go?
I have not been there yet, so it's got to be more of a bucket list item for me. But I know one thing with Princess K, the Milky Way, the unique thing that they do up there is they get that butter sculpture of whoever wins it, right? Like it's their head, or what? How's it go again?
Yeah, and all the contestants do. It's their head, and hearing what the women do with it after, whether it's a corn feed or they put it in their freezer, it's a whole thing. And just to see different state fairs, I think New York does something, Ohio does something with butter. So all the celebrations for dairy, but it's almost the middle of August. It gets me to think about school. Back to school for dairy farmers. I know when I grew up on our farm, my dad he would know that the season is coming up, but he's losing his summer help.
Yeah, for sure. That was always something that I'd say as we got older, when August started rolling around, like that's when football season started. So my brothers have all played, and so when they would start playing football, it picked up a little bit for me, helping out as much as I could on the farm. But I was little, and then eventually, when my brothers left the farm and went on to school, then it was about my turn to start playing. So my dad was missing his summer help, that's for sure. So it was a little different time for him, and I know obviously managed to get through it and made for some long days after football practice, coming home and hopping on the tractor and raking hay, and then trying to help everything out how we could and try to balance everything. I know a lot of people kind of have that same balance of sports and dairy and field work and everything. It's just kind of that time of year.
Yeah, all the fun things happening this fall as summer soon is ending. But let's get into today's episode, hearing everything about dairy from this last issue.
First, Tiffany Klopacki spoke with Spencer Hackett in Rice, Minnesota. Hackett was recently inducted into the Minnesota Livestock Breeders Association Hall of Fame. He talked about some of the history of genomics and the challenges that he appreciates in continuing to work within a breed.
So, what was your reaction on learning of your induction?
I was surprised. I'll be honest with you, I'm a black sheep at all this. I never went to college. I never did any of that stuff. I just breed cattle, keep working on it. I serve on boards, served on our state board, was president. Now I'm on the national board. I'm chairman of the GAC committee, which is Genetic Advancement Committee in their development. Vice chair of the confirmation side of it. Represent them on the CDCB Council, on the Producers Advisory Committee. Just always loved genetics to no end.
What do you love about it?
The challenge of making the next generation better. The challenge that you can make something that makes an impact in the breed, that can change the breed, or hopefully improve the breed. You know, that's always been my driving force, is try to make that next generation better. So I went through all these youth shows. I never won anything. My brothers did, my cousins did. I never had the best cow. And I think that gave me my appetite to always keep trying and striving to do better things. You know, to make a bull that can make an impact in the breed is really probably the best thing I can say, is when other people say, hey, my best cows came from so-and-so's sire. Or somebody the other day had a dispersal and he had 4 or 5 really good cows. He goes, well, geez, 4 go back to your place. You know, when he bought cows from us years ago. They didn't even know it, you know, at the time.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's the thrill for me, is to keep striving to do better. I've always been one to do the outside the box thinking on breeding, taking the long shot, so to speak. You got to have a little luck in this game as well to get the genomics to line up correctly. And hopefully they transmit and prove out. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But when they do, it's really a rewarding feeling.
So what has been your breeding philosophy over the years, and how has it changed from when you started?
When we're doing the genetic side of it, we're always trying to think, and I still do this today, what is the producer looking for 5 years from now? Because I have to make that mating today to try to have the bull that he wants to use. Poll's been coming in really hot, really heavy, just for an example. There was a time when red seemed to be what everybody wanted, you know. We did some of the red stuff. We still do some of it. Try to diversify our portfolio. Right now, moderate statured cows is a big driving force. We're getting too tall as a breed. We know it. Being on the genetic side of it, we're at national, we're going to try to fix that. We're going to try to steer that ship away from the iceberg, because these cows are getting plenty big out there.
Yeah, they are.
So we're looking at data and everything, trying to make them last longer. And it's that moderate stature cow. We call her, she's more athletical. So I don't like using all the high stuff just to be like everybody else. I like to use the one that's different, maybe high enough to get there. And then they can use that sire or pedigree on the other bloodlines.
Do you have any strong particular, cow families or studs that you've read that you're particularly fond of or really proud of in your farm?
Well, no doubt anyone who knows on the dairy side, Frazzled was a huge impact for us. Probably by far the most successful bull we've bred. And that was made with semen bought off the route truck. It wasn't a contract semen or anything like that. It was just a mating we made. Anybody could have bought the semen that day, you know. Mm-hmm. Fuel going up to Canada, scoring 97 points is something I never thought would be a possibility, but it's when you don't own the animal and he goes up there and Max scored on the system. It's pretty exciting. We got to go up to the Royal and see him. They brought him out to the show, to the fair there, had him on display. He's just a big, gentle kitty. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, they didn't even have a gate behind him. You know, he's just as nice as can be. So those have been definitely two of our best cow families. They come back out of that. Try Me, Miles. There's quite a few of them that we've been fortunate enough to breed to make sons or grandsons that have made an impact in the breed going forward.
So how did you first get an interest in the sire, in the studs?
2007 genomics came out, and we always tried to put a bull or two into AI. We didn't get enough because we didn't run the generations fast enough to get a high enough index. You got to keep going forward. So it was back in 2007 when they developed, the bull studs developed this along with the scientists and everything, they only had the rights to it. No other breeder could do it. So we actually had Dave Earth from Accelerated Genetics came out and he says, there's a new thing out, it's called genomic testing. How about we test 3 or 4 of these full brothers and just see if they happen to come up high on the system. When he did it, we got fortunate. It was actually a Zenith son who ended up coming out being the number 2 tested bull at the time on that program. So he was good enough to take him in as a research and study. He goes, he's got a full brother that was number 5 or 6 at the time. You might want to call Select Sires. I bet you they would be interested. It's called Scott Culbertson at Select Sires. They ended up taking that bull to that stud. But we had full sisters, which a breeder couldn't test, but a bull stud could. So we ended up testing some full sisters, found a really high one and another one just a little bit behind it. I ended up selling the number 2 GTPI cow to Select Sires for a good amount of money at the time. And we ended up keeping the other one. We bred off of her going forward, and they ended up breeding theirs to proven bulls and everything. And they made a big branch of sons and everything they brought in and females to work with. And we did just as well on our side as well. So took some money off the table, but I was smart enough, instead of asking for more money up front, I asked them, or got lucky, can we test some more females and see what we could find? When we started testing more and more in a herd, it looked really good.
So where do you see the future of genetics and dairy going? You mentioned, you try to breed 5 years ahead.
My concerns are inbreeding. Anyone who sits on the committee with me knows this. I've always been a very huge concerning person on inbreeding. It's great when it works, but when you get too closely inbred, we're going to have troubles eventually. It shows up as haplotypes and everything. We weed off the bad haplotypes and we go again. But at some point, I want to keep the diversification, I feel, for the long-standing performance of the breed. I'm not saying the fastest gain, but this is a long pull. This isn't just for the next 10 or 20 years and, hey, we're all done. We need to really concentrate on inbreeding, in my opinion, going forward. On the dairy side of it, we have to concentrate on the size and the stature of this cow. She's got to be what I call more of a moderate statured cow, more athletical cow that can move around in a freestall barn and be comfortable doing it, versus a big, pretty cow that needs special care. Because day in and day out, they got to be athletic and they got to be able to survive.
World Dairy Expo is almost here. The road to Madison kicks off September 30th, and the countdown is on. Head to the Alliant Energy Center and find us in the exhibition hall at the Dairy Star booth. We'll have the latest issue, great conversation, and everything you love about the dairy community. And remember, contact Dairy Star for all of your advertising needs to help reach dairy producers. Don't miss it. September 30th to October 3rd, Madison, Wisconsin. World Dairy Expo. We'll see you there.
Hear more about Spencer Hackett and his Livestock Hall of Fame selection with the headline Advancing the Breed on dairystar.com.
Stacy Smart takes us to Wapaka, Wisconsin, as she talked to one of the 4 honorees of this year's Wisconsin Master Agriculturalist Award. She spoke with Ron Brooks, the 5th generation at Brooks Farms. Brooks earned the Master Agriculturalist Award by focusing on stewardship and conservation, and talks about some of the key factors that helped him earn the award.
Ron, can you tell me what it means to you to have won the Master Agriculturalist Award?
Oh, it's huge and humbling. When you look at the list of previous winners, these are all people that I have long admired, and to have your name added to the end of that list, there's just kind of this feeling of how in the world, no, that can't be right. I don't belong to that list. These are people that I've looked up to all my life.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what would you say are some of the key accomplishments in your career that led to you winning this award?
I think the pillar that I would stand on would be stewardship and conservation. We started this journey when I got out of college, and it wasn't easy. Going from a moldboard plow to a chisel plow with the previous generation was a challenge. And then parking the chisel plow and going to no-till was probably even a bigger mountain to climb. And it's not easy. Going into making that drastic of a change is always a challenge. But I give him credit for being open-minded enough to begrudgingly let me try. And now getting to this point, he's one of the biggest advocates of no-till. Yeah, he's willingly tells anybody that'll listen, just park the chisel plow. It's kind of funny to see, and it's his idea, of course. It's not Ron says you should park the chisel plow. It's you should just park that chisel plow.
Well, that's great. Probably very great to have his support in all of that. And so now you have a couple of your daughters here as the sixth generation at Brooks Farm. And tell me a little bit about what that looks like and how that makes you feel as a father and a business owner with your daughters stepping into those roles.
Lucky and proud. I tell anybody that'll listen that I'm the luckiest businessman. I'm the luckiest dairy farmer in the world, not only because of my daughters, but because I have all my grandchildren here on the farm every day. Sometimes it's a bit much. They're in the cab, they're on the gator, they're in the house, but they're learning. And I've always said I didn't grow a farm. I grew children that became functional adults. And I hope I'm doing the same, and I'm providing that mentorship for my grandchildren. I know my grandfather did for me. He was pivotal in my development. And it's just so lucky to have multiple generations, and it truly does take a village. And I'm hoping that these kids, if they turn out half as good as my daughters, they'll be phenomenal people.
Well, that'll be exciting to see as the future unfolds. And so this farm has a 170-year history. It's been around a long time. What would you say is maybe the greatest success or just biggest change you've seen in your time over the years here?
I think what's made it successful was the willingness to adapt and being open-minded to new technology. Maybe not always accepting, but being open-minded and maybe sometimes doing too much research and not jumping in right away. I know there's a lot of times that we wished that, why didn't we do that sooner? And sometimes that was necessary financially. Sometimes it was necessary just to get everybody's heads wrapped around the idea. But I think if you're looking for a reason as to why we've been able to succeed for 6 generations and now going on 7, is just that willingness to adapt and embrace new technology and embrace new ideas.
Hey dairy farmers, Dairy Star is your paper. We're the nation's largest dairy publication, hitting over 15,000 mailboxes every 2 weeks, with news, markets, and stories from farms just like yours. And guess what? We're always looking for the next great story idea. Big or small, if it's happening in the dairy world, we want to tell it. Send in stories to dairydelivery@dairystar.com. So read us free at dairystar.com and send us your ideas, because the next great story we print could be yours.
Read all about Ron Brooks and his Master Agriculturalist Award under the headline Generational Success on dairystar.com. Our next story focuses on our history section of the paper as our Minnesota reporter Amy Kylo spoke with Joe Adamson near Rochester, Minnesota. Adamson is the owner of a barn that formerly belonged to the St. Mary's Hospital in Rochester. Adamson has been restoring the barn and talks about some of the history that the barn has been used for.
So I'm here at the Mary Knoll Barns with Joe Adamson, his son Will, and their dog Chuck. And tell me just a little bit about how you came to own this barn.
It was, back in 2008, I was on leave from the Navy and I saw it originally. And I thought that'd be fun to have this someday. And then when I retired out of the Navy in 2008, it was back in 1998 is when I first saw it.
Yep.
We actually bought a house around the corner and I completely forgot about the barn. And so I met the people that actually had it and became friends with them. And then in 2019, he said he was going to sell the barn. And we said, okay, sold. And that's when we decided to buy the barn. And then from the last 6 years, we've been doing restoration work on it and getting it up to the point where now it can be used as an event center and more community involvement.
I love that. So tell me a little bit about how was the barn originally used? Where did this barn come from and how was it originally used?
Originally, this barn was for the St. Mary's Hospital. The Sisters of St. Francis, under Sister Joseph Dempsey, who was the administrator, had this barn built. It held originally 72 cows that they milked, 80 total. We figure roughly 12 horses. And so they provided all the dairy for the hospital. And then across the road, there was a chicken coop that had all the chickens for the hospital. And then behind us, there was actually a hog pen. So a lot of the farm goods that the hospital needed were provided at this barn. And conversely, too, when doctors went to get the bill from the patients and the patients couldn't pay, well, hey, do you want to take a cow for my bill? And a lot of that was back then, around that time frame, that was how you sometimes paid for your medical bill. And so that's part of the history of the barn, too.
Gotcha. So you have kind of a unique material here. Tell me a little bit about the barn. If somebody rolls in the driveway here, what kind of barn they're going to see, and tell me a little bit about the material.
Okay, so this is a salt glazed tile barn, and they were made roughly from about 1919 up to about 1950. This is the largest salt glazed barn left in the United States. All the tile came from Fort Dodge, Iowa. So it's actually a clay tile that its final treatment is they put in salt, heat it up, and then that salt turns to a glaze that's pretty porous or impermeable for water. And so that way, in a milking environment, it's a lot cleaner to keep clean. You can wash down the walls. It's not affected by humidity as much, and it's easier to maintain. Conversely, though, they do have a lifespan on them,
Sure.
like any barn.
Yep, absolutely. So you guys talk about it's such a beautiful, beautiful place here. Tell me, each of you, a little bit about what's your favorite place in this barn.
Upstairs. I like the upstairs cathedral area. How about you, Will?
I liked actually maybe more towards the upper part because I remember hanging out with my scout friends at the very top, going over like meal plans for campouts and stuff like that. So that's my favorite part.
You mentioned having scouts out here. Tell me a little bit about the community involvement and how you guys have started connecting your community here.
So one of the biggest things that we've been doing is during COVID, when everything was shut down, we were fortunate enough from the scout troop that my boys were involved with. We were able to come out to the barn. And since I owned it, we could have the scout troop out here. So that kept the scout troop alive for those 2 years when there was lockdown. The health department originally came out because they had to do a survey, make sure it was safe for people to be out here. And their original assessment was, yes, you can have the scouts out there. And I always asked, well, how many? My troop was only 24 at the time.
Yep.
And lo and behold, they said it was good for, I think it was 400 scouts with social distancing.
Yep.
So that actually worked out well. If you go upstairs and you look on the pews upstairs where the kids sat for the meetings, they're all spaced out. And those letters were for each one of the different patrols.
Sure. I love that. So you've got a lot of space here. What is the square footage of this barn between the mows and then the base floor?
18,000 square feet. Wow. So on the historic registers, this is the largest salt glazed tile barn left in this area, if not in America. There was one down in Iowa that 3 weeks ago was torn down because of developers. And it was actually a little bit larger than this one, but they decided to tear it down. So there are very few barns of this style left in America. And this is one of the largest ones, especially with the H style.
Find more about Joe Adamson's barn under the title A Dairy Owned by Nuns on dairystar.com.
We close today's episode with Lori Reed in Lisle, Minnesota. Lori and her husband, Roger, earned the Top Genetic Protein Award this year. Lori talks about her reaction to receiving the award and details some of their breeding choices as they continue to improve their herd.
So I'm sitting here with Lori Reed. She just won the Top Genetic Protein Award from National Brown Swiss. Tell me a little bit about your farm, you and Roger's farm, just briefly, and about winning this award.
We milk 125 registered Brown Swiss cows.
And how many acres do you guys?
We farm about 320 acres. Our son also rents some farmland that he farms in with us. And we have a 5-year crop rotation on the home farm, which has been in place for probably 50 plus years since his folks did it. So I can say 70 years because in 2023 it would have been 70 years of 5-year crop rotation here.
Oh my goodness, that's a long time. So you just won this top protein award for Brown Swiss. Tell me a little bit about what your emotions were when you realized that you'd won.
I can honestly say it was just incredible surprise, because we find that as we get older, we're not as aggressive and maybe proactive in looking for all the latest sires and pushing our cows to do more. So we were really quite honored and incredibly surprised to receive this award.
That's so cool. So obviously this number is coming off of, from what you told me, is coming off of a composite of your like DHA milk records and component records and also your genetic records, and they're put into a formula, correct?
That's correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about breeding choices and what you guys are looking for in Brown Swiss.
Well, I usually go out and look at any of the new genetic sires that are coming down from Brown Swiss through the AI groups, and I pick out the sires pretty much, and then Roger and I sit down and go through them, and we order the semen from what we've decided. We look at our cows based on net merit, and we breed for net merit, protein, butterfat, and then pounds of milk. We take those the first three, the net merit, the protein, and the butterfat, are the most important parts to our breeding program. And we are a commercial herd. So if we get a beautiful cow in the process, that's wonderful.
Yes.
But our cows have to pay the bills, and that's really important to us. So that's what we do with that.
Absolutely. You talked a little bit about you've worked with a farm business management team for many years, and that you've looked at kind of the numbers on looking at energy corrected milk for Brown Swiss. Tell me a little bit about how Brown Swiss fits into that and from the financial end of things.
Well, with farm business management, some of the record keeping that we get back at the end of the year is the dollars produced per cow per hundredweight of milk. And that's really important to us because that's what pays the bills. If you're in the plus side anyhow, and we try to stay in that plus side. Well, energy corrected milk is based on the pounds of fat, pounds of protein, and milk. And then it's in the formula. And energy corrected milk is kind of a true presentation of that, the true production of that cow is what I want to say. And actually, I did production awards for Brown Swiss, our state Brown Swiss Association, for 15 years. And in the last 10 years, we went to energy corrected milk because it kind of weeds out the 365 or 305 day records. It weeds out 2 times a day, 3 times a day. Energy corrected milk is just that true production of the cow. And you can have a Brown Swiss milking only 23,000 pounds of milk, but yet energy corrected can be 30,000 pounds easily. And the top, I believe this year, was a cow that did 54,000 pounds of energy corrected milk for Brown Swiss.
Wow.
I could be off on that number, but I'm thinking that's pretty close.
That's incredible. And so tell me a little bit about what you guys' kind of rolling herd average is in some of these areas of that energy corrected milk.
Our rolling herd average right now, I think, is right at about 20,000 pounds per cow. But we're with a 4.5 butterfat and a 4.0 protein.
Wow.
So that brings, if you go by energy corrected milk, that brings that dollar value up, and that's what pays the bills.
Catch all of Lori's article about receiving the Top Genetic Protein Award under the headline, 4-time winners wonderfully surprised.
We want to thank today's sponsor, Dairy Star. World Dairy Expo is almost here, September 30th to October 3rd at the Alliant Energy Center in Madison, Wisconsin. Drop by our booth in the exhibition hall, have some great conversation, see our latest issue, and catch up with the happenings of Expo with our daily edition. We'll see you in Madison at the 58th World Dairy Expo.
There are so many great stories to find in this issue of the Dairy Star. We have a powerful story from Amy Kylo. She spoke with Jordan and Rachelle Meyer in Caledonia, Minnesota. The Meyers lost their 2-year-old daughter, April, in a farming accident in April of 2024. The Meyers used this difficult time, though, to refocus on their faith and continue to celebrate April's life.
That was one that when I read it in preparation for our podcast here, was definitely one that strikes an emotional note. So if you're looking for one to move you a little bit. That's definitely one that'll get you a little bit. Amy did a really good job reporting on it, and we want to thank Jordan and Rochelle for opening up and letting us tell that story. It's something that was really important to them, and I think it's a really important thing for us to continue to do. In Barron County, one name has been a mainstay at the fair for a century. Danielle Nauman spoke with the Reby family, who's been exhibiting for the last 100 years at the Barron County Fair.
One more to look for in this issue is how a contest at the Wisconsin State Fair has grown from just a cheese contest to a dairy products contest. I had heard this story from a farmer and a master cheese judge, and you might even see pictures from the state fair in the next issue of the Dairy Star. You can always find more stories in next week's Dairy Star newspaper. Then come back to the Dairy Delivery on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts to hear more about what's happening in the dairy industry. Make sure you rate and subscribe. And if you or someone you know is interested in being featured in the Dairy Star or on Dairy Delivery, reach out at dairydelivery@dairystar.com so we can continue sharing all dairy all the time.